Welcome, everyone, to another episode of IT Visionaries. And today, special guest, co-founder and CEO of Omada Health, Sean Duffy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Albert, for having me on. Happy to be here.
Sean, right out the gate, I have a personal interest in health, but go ahead and tell everybody what your company does and what problems it's looking to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, everybody. So I'm Sean Duffy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Omada Health. We are a digital care provider, and we specialize in those disease areas where it's crystal clear that you can deliver the vast majority of care without dragging a patient into a waiting room. And so right now we focus on pre-diabetes, diabetes, hypertension, behavioral health, so depression, anxiety, as well as physical therapy and musculoskeletal disease. In every one of those, getting the right care is not only hugely painful from an experience standpoint. You got to take time off of work, schedule appointments, but it doesn't allow you to optimize quickly. So that is the charter, and we're going to keep swinging and keep dreaming big until we've helped a lot of people.
So let's back up 1 second where what you just said, you're saying it where it's very clear that you'll be able to diagnose like what the problem is.
And deliver the care.
Yep. So give us an example, because you named off a couple disease states or problem states. Give us an example of why these are more, I guess, able to be diagnosed and cared for online versus in person.
No, yeah, absolutely. So, Omada, we're not going to be doing hip surgeries anytime soon. You do need physical contact with the body. But I think, frankly, we've all had our own personal care experiences where the ask from the system is like, oh, well, book a visit. Why don't you come in for that?
Yeah.
And the thought crosses, wait, really? You need me to come in just to check my blood pressure? Isn't there an easier way here? And so I'll give you one example, which is diabetes. So if you have type 2 diabetes right now, technically your primary care doc is responsible for delivering that care. But the issue is, in order to improve health, you really need a lot of quick iterations on your care plan. You need to look at where someone's sugars are, think about how their meds are adjusting, think about their diet, help them maybe lose a little bit of weight. And you need to do that very, very rapidly on a day-to-day basis to get the outcomes. And in the current ecosystem, it's like, well, book a visit. Well, great. That's 3 weeks away. Then you go there. Then it's like, well, maybe why don't you come back in 6 months? That's 6 months. So you don't have you don't have that cycle. And so it's really an in-person setting gets in the way of delivering care. And there's no need to have contact with the human body in diabetes care very regularly. You can deliver a lot from afar.
Yeah. What percentage, I guess, of regular hospital or doctor visits are in this category? Have you done any studies on that?
We have. My belief system is that if you look at the kind of primary care level, about 50 to 60% of the visits that a primary care doc in today's world would do could be done remotely. So in-person care is hugely important. And that's why Omada is really focused on these areas where it's just clear that the vast majority of what needs to be done can be done from afar. So we can complement the primary care clinicians and really support their care experience with their patients.
Yeah. So this sounds fascinating because I know exactly what you mean. I have 3 kids. So we're a family of 5, me and my wife, whether we're going for ourselves, for our children, or my in-laws or my actual mom. We're always, if we go to the hospital, it's a painful process. You typically go to a waiting room. You're 45 minutes, maybe 45. You know what I mean? The doctor will see you at 8. That means you show up at 8. You don't get seen till, I don't know, 9:30, but you actually just go sit on a table at 9:30. At 9:45, the doctor walks in. You're there for
Meanwhile,
6 minutes.
You're messaging your colleagues like, I'm going to be late to that next meeting, and I thought I built enough buffer, but the U.S. healthcare system didn't do it for me.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I thought you had a doctor's appointment at 9. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm literally just sitting on this white sheet. I don't know.
DMV, doctor's office. Yeah.
Nothing's happening. Yeah, exactly. So we all understand the pain of this process. Yep. So give us an idea. What is different about this? Because on the surface, I think people are imagining this is just a virtual conference. What is this? Because there's certain tests, like you mentioned, that have to be done to demonstrate certain things. Obviously, you can't do I can't give a biosample over a virtual, but give us an idea, what makes the platform unique?
Yeah. So
that's where I want our audience to understand what you guys are
absolutely
delivering.
And phone calls or video visits, that's table stakes. That's just, this is where technology, incredible engineering and design, and data science can really make a huge difference. meets connected devices. So, as I dig into some technology, it's always a moment to plug. Omada is hiring in all areas, especially engineering. And it's to do and deliver care experiences like the following. So let's say, you have diabetes. In the current ecosystem, you book a visit, with a provider. Maybe they say, hey, you should go pick up a glucometer from Walgreens, test your blood sugars, maybe write them down. If you notice any of these trends, maybe come back. The Omada experience is completely the opposite, where, you sign up, you have diabetes. Firstly, we're writing you a script for a continuous glucose monitor. We're mailing you a cellular connected scale, a blood pressure cuff, a blood glucose meter. You don't have to go anywhere. It arrives. It's pre-configured over the cellular network, just to work with your account. There's no like pairing with your Wi-Fi network. So you get your CGM. You self-apply it. That's called a continuous glucose monitor. It's a little patch. You put it on your arm. It gives a real-time feed of your blood glucose readings. You're opening the app experience. You're meeting your primary health coach. You're meeting your certified diabetes educator. They're reviewing the data as it comes in. You don't even need to preactively look. They're looking for you, and they're bringing back insights. They may notice that you need a medication change based on the sugar readings. Instead of saying, hey, Aaron, we need you to book an appointment with your primary care doc, they say, how about one of our clinicians just does that right now for you? In the exact same app experience, you're doing a chat. You don't even you can do a video call or voice call. The doctor's evaluating your CGM readings and your medication needs by chat and pushes it right to your pharmacy. Very different experience.
So this is pretty sick. All right. now, so it's beyond that. The virtual, like you said, just the table stakes. You're talking about your company takes care of personalized devices so you can handle your measures, your tests, your medical applications, so that all this data is then delivered to the doctor. Your processing engine's probably like helping them understand what's happening to you in real time, alerting systems to make it easier to basically be proactive. Because the old way of health, one of the things, everyone who's got a dad, mostly dads, some moms have experienced this, where the people like are terrible at self-reporting anything.
Oh,
right.
Sure.
Oh, how many times do you exercise a week? Oh, 5. It's like, no, I've never seen you move. And so that's how medicine has been done for a long time, which is like, oh, I'm trusting. I gave you the medicine. Did you take it? Like, no, the doctor doesn't know. They're just hoping you took it. This is a little different. Like, how many times have you checked your blood sugar? I check it every day. It's like, no, now you know whether this is happening.
Well, and the other thing too is the system can put so many operational burdens on people. It's like, you need to do this. You need to come in and get your A1C test. You should book an appointment. Like what? And that doesn't work, especially in diseases where they tend to be not highly symptomatic. So you can have diabetes and you might not feel it, but just bit by bit, minute by minute, your body and like the micro tissue in your body, it's rusting thanks to your diabetes. That's the best analogy. So that really builds up over time. Damage is happening in the background, but you may not actually feel it. So in that world, you've got your kids' soccer practice at 3 p.m. on a Thursday. Like you've got to manage dinners, childcare, COVID, work. Like the idea that you're going to pull up and spend the time and call and spend 15 minutes on hold with the office staff to book an appointment 3 weeks out for your primary care doc to just have a look at how your sugars are doing. That's not going to happen. So people fall through cracks. So the idea is, well, let's just reverse that. Let's bring as much care as humanly possible into the pocket and make it as easy as possible. All you need to do is sign up. We got the rest. We're constantly watching out for you in a proactive way, helping understand your goals, and we've got your back, day by day.
No, this is fantastic. I totally understand what you guys are coming from. Talk about a little bit of how did you get this idea? Because we did a little homework. We read a little article about you in, I believe let me hover on my link, Doctorpreneurs. Never heard of the site, but it's pretty fascinating. All right. We read an interview. It said you self-proclaimed computer nerd. You love technology. Your mom was a nurse. You did go to, we read, you studied neuroscience at Columbia.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So how did you end up building software?
Yeah, well, so I just loved computers growing up. The fun era where like your computers would have a turbo button and I was quite I think I wore sweatpants through junior year in high school until like my sister was like, Sean, you got to switch to jeans here. Like just love. I was like computer nerd growing up. I loved it. Loved computers.
Yeah.
studied neuroscience, was interested in healthcare, graduated in '06. That was just a remarkable time in Silicon Valley. Um, uh, Thought I would either have to pick tech or healthcare. So I worked at Google for a couple of years.
Right.
Realized that maybe the worlds weren't black and white. Went to medical school in this MD MBA program, thinking I would do something in tech meets healthcare. And then as I progressed through that, took an internship at IDEO, back in the Valley, and then got the idea behind Omada. And the idea was just to think through ways where you could build a very evidence-based digital health company that really focused on technological excellence.
So talk about how did you get started? So you're working for these different companies. You decide to make the leap. What was the catalyst for you to be like, all right, I'm doing it. This is going to be my thing.
Well, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur of some sort, but I didn't know anything about the business of the U.S. healthcare system, or frankly, business generally. I mean, I was in an MD MBA, but I hadn't done.
By the way, had you known, you probably wouldn't have started because there's a lot of roadblocks.
No way. Especially in healthcare. I mean, healthcare has very complex go-to-markets. It's like it's not for the faint of heart. But what ended up happening is I just had a reflection that my conversations with my former colleagues from Google were just so different than my medical school classmates.
Yeah.
And on the tech side,
how are they different?
Yeah, I mean, it was like early days of wearables, and on the tech side, I was like, oh my gosh, like all these things are going to change healthcare. And then the medical side was just very skeptical. I was like, well, where's the peer-reviewed trials? Where are the guidelines that support this? Like, it's a little bit of a moment where it felt that the worlds needed to hear each other a bit better.
Yeah.
And so the idea was, all right, well, clearly technology can make a difference in care, but like where, why, and specifically, what are you trying to achieve? So me and my co-founder, we just got dead set on exploring disease areas where we just knew technology could not be incrementally better, but 10x better, where you could deliver an extraordinarily differentiated clinical experience leveraging technology. And diabetes and metabolic disease became the interest area for us as a start, because it's extraordinarily problematic for our country. I mean, the trajectory that we're on is just very sad, and it's just clear that without a digital intervention that changes the experience in the ways that we just talked about, we weren't going to get there for the country. So that just led to Omada. We just kept running.
Yeah. So you dove. You kind of saw the opportunity. You saw the need, right? You mentioned before that your mom was a nurse, so you saw the need, and I agree with you. The general health outcomes of Americans right now, it appears to be getting worse every year.
Yep.
Obesity, diabetes, a lot of the long-term chronic cardiovascular disease, they're all on the rise. Nothing's falling.
Yep.
There's nothing falling, right? At this time. And at the same time, medical billing, medical expenses, time to care, all of that's rising. So this is a disastrous, trend. So you come in and you say, this is how I want to do it. Did you right away know, like, this is how you were going to do it? Like, you were going to say, hey, I need to build a virtual platform. We're going to treat people virtually. I need to be able to better monitor what people are doing and making sure that the data is getting to the doctors. Was it always the original goal? Was it originally like we were just going to do telemedicine? How are you thinking about solving the problem at that time?
Yeah. What's funny? So like the classic kind of IDEO approach is always don't even do anything until you like talk to a bunch of people.
Okay.
And like imagine how your product or service would fit into their world. So, me and my co-founder, before we had a single line of code written, we just went through homes in places like, Georgia, areas with high obesity and diabetes prevalence, and like listened to what people's care experiences were like with these diseases. And it just became so clear that there was not going to be a silver bullet. So that was kind of reflection number one. And at that moment, and frankly, still to this day, you saw many companies that were capabilities. It's like, look, I've got a cellular connected scale or connected scale. Great.
Yeah.
I can set you up with a coach. I can set you up with a community. I've got a great tracking tool or app. And what we recognized was that you kind of had to have it all, which was a harrowing thing, but you need the device data coming in. Of course, you need tracking. You need social community. You need a content experience. You need a full care team and people accountability. So we decided to just really like roll up our sleeves and build all the needed pieces to deliver a care experience that didn't like over index on one particular capability.
So who is the first, I guess, because this is a marketplace, so it's a bit of a challenge, right? You need doctors, you need patients, and on your website you also have employers. So you got a third wheel. But when you first started, I'm assuming, was it just doctors to patients? Was it employers to employees? And how did you first approach this three-pronged market?
Yeah, so we're an enterprise, company that gets our programs and capabilities reimbursed, and that allows anyone to have access to them. And so then it becomes, well, all right, well, what are the value drivers to get either health plans or self-insured employers that are paying for the cost of the care for their employees excited for what we do? Mm-hmm. So we spun up a really big research engine to produce peer-reviewed, research and literature showing definitively that our programs work, as well as save money. So that needed to happen in background. And you're hitting on something which is a real, tricky thing. It's like the chicken or the egg of like, well, great. In order to get some data and proof points, you need a customer, but in order to get a customer, you need data and proof points. So,
yeah. And you need a doctor in all of this too.
And then you need the whole care team to support what you do. And there's technology components where it's like the minimum viable product for Omada is pretty heavy, because we've coined a term, thanks to our chief medical officer, called the minimum clinically viable product, which is like, what's the threshold where it actually will clinically work? It's a little bit of a higher bar. So it was just like any company that's getting going from the beginning, it's just a little bit of prayer and saying the same story a lot and finding people that just believe in the vision, are willing to make a bet on you in the company.
So, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but based on what you're saying, it sounds like getting people aligned to this was probably almost harder than the technology to support it. Am I wrong in that? Because I'm trying to gather from what you're saying.
Though, of course, on behalf of Omada, spend a ton of my time on the enterprise and commercial side and go-to-market side. By disposition, I love product and I love technology. So as funny as it sounds, it always felt like the easy piece.
Yeah.
Whereas like figuring out how to commercialize within the US healthcare system is like, wow. Like I always joke that chasing the dollar in the US healthcare system is like that game in Harry Potter Quidditch with the golden snitch. like understanding incentive structures, the different stakeholders, the regulatory landscape. It's that is very challenging. And there's no shortcuts.
Yeah. So, one of the things that happens to a lot, obviously you got over this hurdle, but inevitably when we hear technical founders that come on the show, they talk about when, they're building their companies, inevitably they hit this like massive roadblock where it makes you like question, questions. Like I think one of our guests said it in the past, like it makes you question your will to survive. It's like, should I even do this anymore? Because and it's often not a technical problem. It's a problem like you suggested, which is it's a non-technical problem, because you feel like I can code a solution, but I can't get over this hurdle. Did you ever feel that way, or were you like so lasered in on the mission, like no amount of hurdles like bother you? Because you're going through a lot of red tape. If you're fighting the US healthcare system, that's a lot of red tape. I'm sure a lot of compliance paperwork you probably did that you couldn't believe you had to do. I'm sure a lot of the stuff wasn't even allowed. They didn't accept e-signature. Like I know the healthcare system can be quite antiquated.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, we literally like in a world bringing like. Imagine, thankfully this changed in 2013, but imagine trying to recruit engineers to Omada saying, sorry, because of what we do, you can't use AWS.
Oh, man.
You're like, oh, like, thankfully they started to allow companies that, were covered entities and, they became compliant with HIPAA, but, it isn't for the faint of heart. I think to your question on roadblocks, I mean, there's always, when you're growing a company, I mean, every year, it's a challenge. And the way I describe it in the early stages, it's almost like how frequently something tries to like kill your baby in the enterprise. Jeez. And when you're little, it's like every 2 weeks something tries to like attack it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it goes to like every quarter and like maybe every 6 months and every year as you scale. And that's how you measure. But there's been so many moments where we just had to like flex that extra level of determination. The beautiful thing about healthcare is and I know my co-founder Adrian would say the same, like you almost are able to better extract yourself and your personal identity from the mission, as strange as that sounds, because you see the impact.
Mm.
And like you hear the stories of people where they just like, we're not getting any care and this changed their life. And they, you know, they feel better about themselves, their family, their health. Like, and you stop, you kind of stop, it's the wrong, I don't even know the right words to use. Almost like you become numb. You become willing to just get hit in the face.
Okay.
You're like, yeah,
you embrace it.
We're just going to run. We're going to like, someone needs to try to get beyond any challenge here and give this a go for the country. And it, you know, and like you abstract yourself out of it. You like imagine a baseball field and you're like, do you want somebody and some company swinging really hard at this problem? And then if the answer is yes, like you just get a little bit extra boost in determination in healthcare, despite the extra headwinds, and that helps overcompensate.
What was that big moment like? What was that big moment that let you say like, okay, we're this product and our vision is going to change lives? Because of course when that life-changing moment happens, your product's in its early stages, it gives you a lot of, like you said, a lot of juice to say like, hey, we can keep building this. This is what's going to work. What was that moment like? What was the technological breakthrough that allowed that moment to happen?
I mean, man, when we started to see some of the clinical outcomes from the product, using like the connected devices and the care team approach and the content and the curriculum, like this is going to work. Like clinically, I think we can deliver care in a completely different way. So that was kind of like the will it work moment, where once we put all the pieces together, and then it becomes like a can you sell it moment. And some of our first contracts, you just like remember how anxiety ridden it was to get them to the finish line and how good you felt when you're like, you know what, this is a proper deployment. Like people are paying for this now. And then there's the whole like scaling, where it's the whole experience of Omada has been that scene on Apollo 13 with like the round, CO2 cartridge that needs to fit into the square hole.
Yeah.
With only the parts on the ship before the like oxygen.
That's my favorite scene.
It's the best scene. And it's,
I need you to get these guys back. They're stuck in outer space, and this is all that you have. Like he brings in all the parts. Like this is every single part, piece of material, piece of fabric. This is all we got on the shuttle. Exactly. It has to be done with this.
It has to be done with this, and you have to do it fast enough before like the oxygen depletes, which is your cash when you're a startup.
Exactly.
That's your bank account.
By the way, the fact that they got Apollo 13 back to Earth is like, it's got to be among the greatest feats of engineering ever.
It's just awesome problem solving creativity, and a great movie.
Yeah.
So for us, I mean, it's like literally like we go to these health plans way back in the day, and they're like, oh, you want a contract as a provider? Where are your offices?
We have none. Yeah.
And you have to like shift the mindset of the market to understand that you can provision care without like necessarily having someone come into an office in a physical setting. And the gymnastics that we had to go through, I mean, we had to take all of our clinical trials, go to the American Medical Association, get the first ever digital specific billing code ever approved in the US healthcare system.
Wow.
Like those are the sorts of things that we had to, now, like all of our competitors use that same code. But that's
called second mover advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, we had to just bludgeon through it. And that's just kind of been the story, but it's one of those where like, I've grown centered with a truth, which is there are just immutable like laws of physics in the US healthcare system. Pretend that there's going to be a silver bullet. So the question becomes, these literally are the only parts you have on the ship. Like you have to make what you do fit in, and get creative around it. Like don't pretend that there's going to be some magic, like new implementation strategy that's going to work. Like we're dealing with decades of regulatory and technological infrastructure in the US healthcare system that you got to fit into.
Yeah. Heavy constraints. I can see that. You're seeing so like, you've overcome the constraints, you've introduced technology. You guys had the vision to say, okay, let's we need something that's like you kind of said, like the minimum viable clinical,
minimum
what was
clinical,
it?
yeah,
Minimum clinical,
minimum clinically viable product.
minimum clinically viable
Yeah.
product. So you already mentioned like you need connected devices. You need to make sure this data is coming in. You know, one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking about this, and I was also recall when I was doing the homework on Omada before this call,
Sure.
is how many patients you now have. And I remembered back when I was at Emory, I got my master's in health sciences.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the studies we read were like N1000. Like it was done off of a study, a sample size of N1000, and those were like the medical truths
And those are
that
big,
we would go
studies.
by.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, N1000 was big. Okay. Yeah. Your N is now what? Half a million?
We crossed half a million and growing fast. So
you're now, because you're using connected devices, you're connecting actual probably better, more accurate data points than ever been collected before. Because when I would read these studies, like you said, you'd have to get these 1,000 people.
Yep.
Like if I'm doing, let's say, an impact of diet and BMI. Well, I got number one, I have no way to regulate your diet. It was all self-service, self-reported. Then I got to bring in 1,000 people, measure you. And then we do this repeat over 1 year. I can say broccoli is better for you than steak, whatever. But you're collecting data in real time. What are some of the things that are being unlocked like right before our eyes? Because what kind of breakthroughs are happening? Because now there's never been a collection and pooling of data like this before. I mean, it didn't exist.
Or it's been siloed where it's like, cool, you have this great data set of like weight loss readings. Cool, you have this
great
N30. Yeah. So it's really neat. I mean, we have billions of data points now, hundreds of millions of care messages between our teams and we've per the commentary up top, we've built all the technology platforms to support it. So everything's kind of structured heading into the same place, which allows you to like study it and do different things more quickly. Which the Omada approach that we call Omada Insights Labs, which is like it's kind of cross-disciplinary, data science meets product meets engineering to all work together to answer some kind of questions that only we could answer, to innovate in ways that you could only do when you hit scale. Yeah. And some of the things that our data science team have explored, to give an example, which is like, so this is silly and it's fun, but did you know that the way, like, so okay, let's say you're losing weight.
Okay.
Where would you guess? I'll put you on the spot. Where does the mass go? Like let's say you lose 20 pounds, how does the 20 pounds leave your body? It's like,
I'm assuming through matter. It's got to be through breath and human waste. I don't know. What else could it be?
So it's breath. You're spot on. It's actually CO2.
This is why people that go on keto have terrible breath. I'm serious. Yo, if you go keto, get yourself some mouthwash, man. It's gonna be rough.
So you're breathing off CO2, and that's like how mass like leaves your body. So one of our data scientists early on was like, I wonder if we have enough people at Omada. If we hit that threshold where literally we can watch if people are weighing in at night and in the morning, can we observe the weight loss? Would we have a large enough N count to observe what happens at night as people are breathing off CO2 in their sleep? And I don't remember what the actual specific like amount was, but we had enough data that was observable with statistical significance. So like we didn't ever publish that externally. Maybe we probably should, because I don't think I've never seen like that out in the world. But that is one example of things where once you're at scale, if the data is architected correctly and you have the right teams thinking about it, those are the sorts of things you can observe in digital care that you just couldn't in an in-person setting.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this thing that you mentioned just a moment ago, which is the Omada Health Insights Lab. I was reading an article about on TechCrunch. I'd love for you to explain it. This sounds like a really awesome way to get, I guess, more mind share solving some of the problems using the data that you guys have. But I'd love for you to explain it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of got two purposes. It started internal, and then kind of flipped to external. In that, we found that organically, inside Omada, we had people that saw some of the opportunities like I just shared, where it's like, hey, I wonder if, and it turned out that given our care model that has to involve, product, engineering, data science, people, behavioral scientists, that to chase down a lot of those questions, we saw just organically inside Omada, people getting together and being like, hey, Ryan, like, what if we tried this? So the idea was when you see something starting to blossom, internally, that's delivering innovation for your company and your members and your customers, like pour fuel on it, like brand it, codify it, institutionalize it, like create kind of a membership culture around it. And so it became the Omada Insights Lab, where it's a cross-disciplinary effort. Yes, you've got your day job, but you can contribute to the Insights Lab to answer, to think, to, form hypotheses, to test them out. So it became a culture thing. And then there were so many cool things that were outputs for that. And, it tends to be more beneficial versus harmful for companies to kind of share externally the world. Because it draws attention to your company, your brand, what people think about, brings in talent, it like gets customers interested. So we just started taking some of the work that we're doing internally and, building, external case studies, sharing it with customers. And so, and that also gets people internally proud of it. So it kind of reinforces the loop there. So it became a little bit of an innovation engine, at Omada, which has been fun to watch in action.
So do the ideas, they don't come from just your own employees. They come from is it almost like I don't even know how to best describe it. Is it like almost like iTunes platform? Like you have a code base, you have database, like you have different things that you can leverage and resource. And as you build with these things, everybody benefits. Is that kind of the concept?
I mean, the most common is employees at Omada, but any employee, I mean, you could be a health coach, you could be in the customer support team,
Gotcha.
like, you name it, you could drop ideas and help join this effort. However, as we've shared externally, customers have cool ideas.
Yeah.
They'll be like, whoa, that is really interesting. Something that we found was, what if we help support you in this way? Like maybe we could explore that together for our population. So, I don't know that when we launched that, we knew that was coming, but what we have observed is in bringing people into the fold, like everyone can think through. I mean, we're all aligned here. The country needs better health outcomes in these areas. And customers might have unique populations that we could learn in new ways on. They might have unique data sets, unique systems, unique approaches that could amplify what we do. So, it's actually furthered our partnerships, with our key clients and health plans in really healthy, positive ways.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for that connected toilet because I think that's going to be.
they are sold.
I'm serious. What's that?
I have seen prototypes of medical device companies working on connected toilets. So.
Well, I'm serious. I mean, obviously everyone goes 1 and 2. There's plenty of space for compute in there and sensors. So
totally. Yeah,
I mean, delivery. I mean, everyone knows, like everyone out there has had to deliver a urine sample. We obviously know major health outcomes are detectable.
Google
in
and
urine.
Alexa assistant inside.
Yeah, everyone knows that urine can detect a lot of things. Okay, if we'll go to the bathroom every day, so you would give constant monitoring of your health outcomes. I mean,
do you know how they used to diagnose diabetes way back in the day before you could do proper urinalysis?
No idea.
They would, if you can believe it, I kid you not, clinicians would sip some of the urine.
No.
Because when you have diabetes, your sugar gets high enough that it flows through your kidney. Your kidney
that cannot be somebody's job. That can't be someone.
And your urine is sweet.
That's my goodness.
So, thank goodness medical innovation has progressed, because that wasn't. I wouldn't want to sign up for that. I wouldn't have gone to medical school.
Oh man, I'm trying to think to myself, man, you had to, first of all, if that's your hypothesis, then you tested it. Then you had to test it enough to have confidence that this is actually the case. Yeah. That's brutal.
You got to be pretty mission oriented as a clinician. It's like,
oh my goodness.
Look, I really need it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Let's go back to more, not so nasty thoughts.
Yeah. Not the 1800s.
So where do you, I mean, we kind of hit on it before. You guys are on a mission to change things up. We have a lot of red tape in our healthcare system, whether it's through the billers, whether it's through employer mandated insurance, whether healthcare, there's just a lot of things that are in the way of us becoming or having better, healthier outcomes. There's policy level problems. There's of course lobby problems, right? I love sugar as much as anybody, but the sugar lobby is not good for America. Having people constantly say sugar's not that bad. It's impacting a lot of different things. How do you see, what do you see as the next big thing that, whether you're going to tackle it or someone else has to tackle it, that is going to really start changing outcomes? Because it's still a slow process, right? Like
Yeah.
as much as this technology is there, I'm confident. I'm very confident. You have 500,000 customers. Well, that means there's 300 million plus people that have never done digital health of any type.
We're just at the beginning.
Which is crazy, right? What do you think's next that needs to get more wide scale adoption? Because that number right there is pretty staggering, right? Like 500,000 people are on the platform. That sounds like a lot. Well, there's over 300 million people in the United States. Like, so that's actually not a lot at all.
No, and there's 30 million people with diabetes. It's like we're just at the beginning. Yeah. So honestly, what needs to happen is starting to happen. So step one, we are seeing at the highest of levels more mature digital health companies that are taking the long road, working with the health system, really thinking through the critical aspects of how you make sure that what you're doing fits in. So that's the whole Apollo 13. Like, I think that's a metaphor and an approach that's hanging true, which is a blessing. So now, in my view, it's about staying focused. Like we've got many millions of people to help. So we have to just keep running on exactly the path we're on. Don't deviate, stay true to our mission, and try to scale as quickly and as big as possible.
And what's that mean? How do you do that?
I want millions. What I tell the company is we need tomorrow's epidemiologists, 10, 20 years out, to be studying what happened and why there was a bend in chronic disease outcomes that they're seeing at the national level, and dig into it, have a funny book. What happened? I want people to unpack the data and be like, oh, whoa, that was Omada. So that to me is success. Like, people actually, it frustrates people. Are you proud of what you've done? Oh, yeah, of course. They're like, like, to be honest, you add up our membership and our biggest competitors. We get spotlights. Like, we're a known entity in enterprise healthcare. And I'm like, it's a statement on how poor we as a country are at supporting metabolic disease. That there's a lot of interest in what we're doing. We're not ready to claim victory or even close to it yet.
Yeah, no, I can completely see that. It's really interesting. The country, most people are really focused on how to, treat the outcomes. And I'm curious, how do you think about the inputs, like preventative health? Cause this feels like a type of thing that can be quite preventative too. Cause like, imagine if, I'm just pitching this idea, but imagine if you had a way to say, like, to people, because I think it's represented in your homepage right now. It's like, so let's say you don't have a disease state, you just want to be more proactive. Like, it's whether it's longevity, whether it's, a lot of people care about longevity. I'm 40, so I know like a lot of people my age are now thinking like, man, like I'm falling apart a little bit here.
It happens.
Longevity, fitness and wellness. There's certainly a lot of people there. Youth and beauty, like you could market it that way to youth and beauty. Do you see a place where Omada is going to be like a health tracking, some type of service, but it's also for like preventative care? Like, do you think that's ever going to happen, or do you think?
Well, for us, we need to stay true to our roots, which is the clinical, care provider. And in order to stay true to those roots, we have to make sure that we have the specifics on what health outcome we're working to achieve. In sometimes counterintuitive, I think the idea of prevention and the concept and the wording can sometimes be harmful versus helpful. And I'll kind of share what I mean by that. Like, it's kind of in the construct of the healthcare system and the immutable laws, that like the whole healthcare system is oriented toward problem solution, right? What's the diagnosis? What's the pathology? Like, what's the intervention that gets a solution and outcome? So use diabetes as an example. You absolutely could, and we accurately communicate our models of diabetes. We have a huge diabetes prevention offering. You'll get more understanding for the system if you say we intervene for people with prediabetes or early metabolic disease. You're preventing diabetes, yes, but you're framing it as, look, there's an abnormality, which is true. You have elevated sugars. That abnormality correlates with a high level of prediction that you are going to progress to diabetes, left unsupported. So our goal is to identify that and intervene such that that progression does not happen. So you either call us a treatment company for prediabetes or a prevention company for diabetes. The treatment company for prediabetes better fits into the operating mold and the operating kind of cadence of the US healthcare system, but it gets you the exact same end state. So I think that anything we roll out that has those ilks will be specifically tied to what we're going to achieve for someone, because that's kind of requisite to our identity and our commercial model.
No, I mean, I think that makes total sense. Listen, there's going to be a lot of ways to solve this problem. This problem, like we already talked about, is massive here. What are you, I guess, most excited about? Whether it's Omada or it's someone else making something. You mentioned some of the prototypes. Like, what are you getting really excited about? Like, you can see on the horizon, this is going to really impact, your product, health outcomes, just health in general.
Well, I mean, my gosh, the big focus for us is, as we've expanded our capabilities, thinking thoughtfully about how they tie together. So disease areas that you
that's
might
a big
not
one.
you might not think are connected. So musculoskeletal is an example. I mean, you can deliver a lot of physical therapy services from afar. That's really correlated with diabetes in ways that you wouldn't think. So, a lot of the next kind of generation, capabilities we're fostering here at Omada are helping understand the connections between disease areas that were otherwise siloed. So, depression, diabetes, very correlated. How do you think about supporting someone with diabetes and depression? MSK, if you have knee pain and we can help you lose weight in addition to physical therapy, you get even better outcomes. So that when I think about the things that just really fires me up, it's really it's actually the connections between conditions that I think hold a lot of the promise. Because in large part, care can really feel operating in a silo, and technology allows you to think through how to change that.
No, that is very true. Sean, I want to say thank you for joining us today on IT Visionaries. But before you go, it is time for the lightning round. The lightning round is brought to you by Salesforce Platform, the #1 cloud platform for digital transformation of every experience. Sean, this is where we ask you questions, a little outside of the realm of work, so our audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
All right. You said you love computers, but you studied neuroscience. What was harder for you to learn?
I think neuroscience. Computers you learn by doing. You hack, you play, you tinker. Neuroscience a little less so.
Are you squeamish to blood?
No, not at all.
Have you ever witnessed or watched a doctor perform a surgery?
Oh, dozens and dozens.
Does it make you queasy, uneasy? It doesn't sound like it.
Not. Yeah. Funnily enough, not in the least. Orthopedic surgeries are probably the wildest, if anybody's ever observed one.
Why is that?
It is an experience. It's like, it feels like carpentry. Like there's drills, everyone's shielded because
there's like bone shards, right?
If you're listening and you're squeamish, like plug your ears, but like blood spattering everywhere. It's like, it is pretty wild.
Listen, I remember seeing an episode, I forget where it was Discovery Channel, but like they were doing a brain surgery. This is not orthopedics, but it was a brain surgery.
Yep.
They cut the dude's head off like a cereal bowl.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is what they do?
Exactly.
I was like, I think I'd rather die.
Yep.
How about yourself for your health? What do you do to stay healthy?
I mean, lately it's trying to figure out how to best exercise with a 2-year-old. So like, it's been all about the jogging stroller, or I'll just like use her as a kettlebell and do squats, and like, it's kind of playtime. So
listen, I've been there, man. Like I said, I got 3 kids. Hey, kettlebelling the kid is a great exercise.
It is a great exercise.
All right. We all have our, sins. Most people have a favorite food. You want to be healthy, but of course we all kind of cheat a little bit. What is your favorite thing to eat?
Ooh,
that if your doctor heard you, he'd be like, "Come on, Sean, you can't be."
I don't know. I've always loved caramels. Those are one where I have to protect myself from myself. Like, you shouldn't buy a big bag of those and keep them in my house.
All right, my main man Sean, he likes caramels. He's playing with his kid. What else do you like to do outside of the realm of work? Let me ask you a question. Do you tinker with technology even though you're working at a technology company? Because we found like some CEOs, like they can't get, like they tinker still. Do you still tinker?
Oh, no, I mean, I have to. Yeah, for sure. Like, I either work on side projects, like with my wife, like we work together on this, cool pregnancy app called Coconut Baby. Like I don't really spend a ton of time on it, but a little side business called Excel Everest. Like I build drones. I don't know. I just love to make things. So I don't even really care what it is as long as it's being created.
Listen, this is what we find out about some of the most successful people out there in technology. They still, whatever it is, they just love to problem solve. They love tinkering. So if you're out there listening and, we, like I said at the beginning, the IT Visionaries audience is part executive level. It's also part, people new to the field and trying to learn and get some motivation. It's like, never stop tinkering.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, totally. And, we're on, that audience is a great culture of tinkerers. So, a lot of people listening are building, I'm sure.
No doubt about it. Sean, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for sharing everything that you're doing. Listen, what is the best caramel, by the way?
Well, I actually like the original craft, just I'm N of one, but like the square.
Oh yeah, so it's not even like an exotic, like hard to obtain caramel, just the base.
I don't mind them, but like my favorite really, it's like the childhood ones. I don't know if it's nostalgic, but like the square craft, you have to unpeel the plastic. Like those are.
There it is. Sean, man, thanks for sharing so much about what you guys are up to at Omada Health. I look forward to seeing all of the success. As someone who has used virtual medicine, I've not quite had to use connected devices, but I can absolutely see how that would be significantly better for me than what our traditional way of self-monitoring, coming back, rechecking in. That's horrific. Let's move with it. If you're listening out there interested, go check them out, omadahealth.com. Sean, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely honored to be on. Enjoyed it.